You see, I do not believe the excuse by Esther Passaris that it was a typo, it was meant to be 200. And I'll tell you why. Because when she's being questioned on public meeting, which means a gathering of 2 or more people in a public place, it continues. There's another definition about public procession. What does it say? This is the bill that Esther Passaris has presented to Parliament, or we are being told has presented. Public procession means the movement of 2 or more persons as a body of persons proceeding by a common route for the purposes of, then they talk about demonstrating support for or opposition to the views, publicizing a cause or campaign, marking or commemorating an event. So you see, there's consistency in the number 2. But if you live in the city of Nairobi and you look at some of the residential areas and how people move to work in the morning, I mean, it's a real procession, you would say. If you have moved from the area of Kawangware towards the city, you see how people move. Yeah. So should that be considered as a public procession? But anyway, so that number of 2, it is not a mistake. They do not mean 200, but it tells me something, that this bill is not authored by Esther Passaris. And I'll also explain why, because as you explain the sources of the road towards this bill. The president also spoke and he said, it is time we have a law that will regulate how we carry out demonstrations in Kenya. We must protect the rights of those who want to demonstrate, but equally protect the rights of those who do not want to participate. So when the president speaks about it, the deputy president, the leader of majority, right, the principal secretary, the cabinet secretary for interior affairs, and of course you remember last year, now Cabinet Secretary for Public Service was Member of Parliament for Mbeere North then, Geoffrey Ruku. Yes. He had also come up with such a bill to contain the demonstrations of 2024. I mean, when you look at this bill, this is the product of the national government, just handed over to Esther Passaris to pursue. The other reason why I would tell you that this is not the product of Esther Passaris, if you are to look at the contribution of Esther Passaris as a Member of Parliament in the current House, the 13th Parliament, since 2022, 2023, 2024, there's no single contribution by Esther Passaris on security. But there's a mention of security one time. And I'll tell you what she says. She's asking a question about the security of patients at the Kenyatta National Hospital. That's the only time she raises a question about security in the National Assembly. All the other contributions, they are talking about questions on health, questions on education, some motions about it. There's a time she had a motion, I think it was in 2019, a motion on public transport. This was the motion. Development and implementation of regulations prescribing the amount of fare to be charged by PSVs for their services to protect customers from exploitation and volatility of the PSV services. This was on 13th of March 2019. And this is a motion that was adopted. So the other motions that she has pursued, one on rising cases of femicide in the country. This was on 14th of February 2024. The motion was an adjournment motion just to discuss that matter of femicide. In September 2024, particular date was 29th, as she said, she was raising a motion to the Ministry of Education to undertake a comprehensive overhaul of the education bursary system with a view to collapse all bursary schemes and allocate the funds to the State Department of Education for provision of free basic education. 3 motions is what has been captured. And this is a report from Zelendo Trust, which tracks the activities of parliamentarians in the House. If you're to look at even the rank of Esther Passaris as a Member of Parliament, in 2019, she was positioned 70 out of 349. In 2024, she was positioned 93 out of 349. When you look at the scorecard and you look at top members of Parliament, whether they are women representative or members of Parliament in general, she doesn't feature. If you look at the list in terms of contribution in the House, she also doesn't feature. For her to come up with a public order amendment bill, this is not her. Which committees does she sit in? She sits in the Housing Urban Development Committee and also the Public Investments Committee on matters commercial activities. So she has not sat in the Security Committee. For her to appear with a bill to be telling the members of the National Security and National Administration Committee that it is not it's supposed to be 200, for sure you can see that is not her bill. Now, beyond that, as you regulate how demonstrations are conducted, what are you going to tell a person like the family of Ian Muhindi? I have a message here from this is Stella Njogu. She says, Ian Muhindi is my nephew. He was felled by a bullet. He was not in Maandamano. He was watching from the rooftop of the 9th floor.
Yeah.
What does that got to do with what Esther Passaris and team are trying to cure? Procession, defining.
Maybe you could as well take a moment to just remind us the story of Mwengi Mutuse, the MP, before impeachment. We knew absolutely nothing about him, and you have very, very ably just demonstrated how far from the bill and potentially far from the content of the bill Esther Passaris is.
Are you with us?
Yes. I am with us.
Yeah. We are with us.
We are with us, Toki.
Yeah, exactly. That motion, of course, it's a water under the bridge. It was achieved. But I remember the conversation that we had in the build-up to the presentation of that motion. The conversations were, motion iko tayari, signature ziko, we're looking for the person to take it to Parliament.
Yes.
And of course, it's fine that you can caucus and come up with a way to approach things. I'm just wondering if indeed this is the work of the government, because everyone else, including the president, wants this.
Yes.
Why not just introduce it as a government bill and say that we are going to amend the Public Order Act so that we can provide for how people are going to peacefully protest and ensure that there's no loss of lives and property, and also explain what happens to Ian Muhindi, who was on the 9th floor, not